And, we hear about this term social distancing all the time, right? It's a term that women have been using against me for years, and now we're all doing it. It's called social distancing. And you go to a restaurant. Some of these restaurants are opening up slowly in phase one, particularly here in Las Vegas, but a lot of them are only at 50% capacity. The restaurants I've been to, you can't be sitting table to table with other people. Well, guess what? There's one restaurant that is located in South Carolina. The Hearth, I believe, is what it is called. And the owner of that restaurant is using dolls, blow-up dolls in that restaurant to help practice that social distancing and putting these dolls at the empty tables. I find that unique, to say the least. Paula Starr is the owner of that restaurant in South Carolina, and she joins us on the show right now. Paula Starr, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm great, and thank you for having me.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so tell me this. When you learned that you were able to reopen your restaurant, who came up with this idea with these dolls?
Well, a couple of girlfriends and I were sitting in the backyard and drinking a little wine and ruminating over what I was going to do, because we have been sitting in this house, my husband and I, except for doing takeout at the restaurant for 3 months now. And so we decided that we'd come up with something clever. And I used to be a fashion director at a mall here in town and suggested mannequins, but mannequins were way too expensive, and the malls were hoping to open, so I couldn't borrow anything. And one girl said, well, as my husband drove through Atlanta, he always had a blow-up doll in the left-hand lane and was able to make it in the fast lane of traffic.
Wait, hold on a second. I got to interrupt you for a second. That's funny to me. So you're telling me your husband would go in the carpool lane and he would have a blow-up doll in the – I thought that was a myth. Your husband actually does that.
No, not my husband. It was my next-door neighbor's husband.
Gotcha.
Neighbor's husband.
Okay.
No, he traveled a lot, and so, yes, it is the truth. It is the truth. But I shouldn't say her name now for fear she would be exploited about that, or he would be. But anyway, we said, let's just sit down with our computers and come up with another thing than mannequins. And we looked through the computers and found all kinds of blow-up dolls, but these are in very good taste, have nice makeup on them. The men do have a little hair on their chest, but we were able to conceal that with the right shirt and the right necktie. And the makeup is wonderful. The dolls have served not only as social distancing, but they've served to also lighten the mood. And I can tell you that the yellow caution tape and the blue tape people are putting across the booths has actually made you feel like you were still part of the pandemic. Not that it is not still it right forefront of our minds.
I agree. Paula Starr,
when they walk in to see these dolls, it's just been fabulous.
I was just going to say, I agree with you. You guys are having fun with this. This is very funny. I find it very, very interesting. And, you're right. Instead of having blue tape or don't go here, it makes people think about the coronavirus. But when you have these blow-up dolls.
It's more comforting.
When you have these blow-up dolls in these booths, it makes people laugh. Let me ask you this. Have any of your customers gotten close to any of these blow-up dolls? Like, have they taken pictures?
They've bought them drinks, and they have sat down. They sat down next to them and taken photos. My Facebook page has blown up with these dolls, and it's gone international. I have to tell you, it went the first night we had a local NBC affiliate come in and do about a 9-minute take on the dolls, and then Fox Carolina News came on and did about a 7-minute take on the dolls. And ever since then, I've had people calling me from Canada, people said they saw it in Russia. They said they saw it in Vietnam and Australia. I mean, it has been in Greece. It has been everywhere. And some of my friends have family in these countries, and the family's been calling them saying, "Oh, I see your friend in South Carolina." So that's
great.
Very, very.
I love the fact that you have customers that are hitting on the blow-up dolls and buying them drinks. But I have to ask you this: what would you do, Paula Starr, if you had a customer go up to you and say, I find that doll very attractive. I'd like to take her or him home with me, and offered you like $5,000. If someone offered you like $5,000, would you let a customer come in there?
Take them, yes, sir, and I would buy another one.
I think that's a very realistic scenario.
Yeah, see, $5,000 seems a little steep, Brian.
I was thinking maybe $10.
$5,000 would be wonderful. I would go to that.
You know, you could.
Then I'd come to Las Vegas and spend the money as soon as you open up.
You know, Paula, theoretically, you could actually you could auction off a date with one of those dolls sometime, and that would probably go pretty well.
That is very true.
Have you had anyone try and actually steal one of these dolls?
No, I have not.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
I did have somebody yesterday call me, though, and say that they were going to have a reveal party for their new grandchild. And they knew the child was a boy, and they wanted to dress the boy in a pink shirt and blue pants and put him in a hammock for the reveal party. So the party's on Sunday, and we're not open on Sundays. So they're going to take one of the dolls and put him in a hammock and use that as their baby reveal. So now, is that clever or what? I mean, they came up
I like
with
it.
That is very clever.
Yes, it is.
Paula Starr, a couple quick questions. I don't know if you answered it. One, where did you get these dolls? And then two, is it true that
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say you didn't go to like any kind of sex shop or anything like that, any seedy place.
No, that's what my husband was afraid of.
Because they got. Because if I wanted to get a blow-up doll in Vegas, you know where I'd go.
I know. I'm sure. I'm not sure, but I haven't investigated that. But I will tell you that
you got them on Amazon. You got them on Amazon. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, got them on Amazon, and they are they're in very good taste. They have no obscene body parts. So.
And then I watched a local news story, Paula Starr. Is it true that some of these dolls have wigs? Is that real hair?
Yes, I've put wigs on the women, and one or two of the women, and some of the women I've put hats on.
Well,
I did not because we're a white tabletop restaurant. We've been in business for over 6 decades, and actually into our 7th decade, and we really feel like I didn't want to dress them in any way that would be offensive. I've only had one bad comment on Facebook, and it was that the dolls were scary and that they wouldn't come to eat with me.
Well, you're going to have some push. You're going to have some minimal pushback.
I know
Absolutely.
That. I know that.
Can I, Paula Starr, I just want to ask you this. Can you take me back to what you said earlier? Take me back to the moment where a customer comes up to you and says, "Can I buy that blow-up doll a drink?" Like, how does that happen? Because I'd be embarrassed to do that, although it'd be very funny. Can you explain to me the scenario of how that happens?
Well, what we did is the 2 dolls that are sitting right in the very front of the restaurant, as soon as you walk in, you see them. It's a man and a woman. And the customer said, "Buy them some martinis just like you drink." And so I had them make them water martinis. And
so it was a joke.
Yes, it was a joke.
Okay.
And so then they bought me a drink. So that was wonderful. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it wasn't a person hoping to sit down and have a conversation with a doll.
No, they did not sit down and have a conversation, but they did sit down and put their arm around the lady and
Okay, that sounds all right. Have you seen an uptick in business since doing this? Tremendously. I can't take my eyes off of Facebook right now. It has just gone viral. It was Colbert show the other night, and they interviewed me. I know, and the Today Show this past Sunday.
That's great.
It's been wonderful.
What you have done, Paula Starr, is genius. First of all, it's genius for your restaurant because you're getting all this free publicity. And number 2, I think what you're doing is very funny. I think it was very innovative what you've done. It's very funny. It's about people having a good time during a very difficult time that we're in during this pandemic. And I wish you and your restaurant the best. You sound like a very nice lady. And I promise you, if I'm ever in South Carolina, I am going to go to your restaurant.
You better do that.
You're damn right I will.
Send me your address, so if I'm ever in Las Vegas, and I ever get a break, I'll be there. And
We will do that.
talk to you.
Absolutely.
Again. Okay?
I would love to do that. You sound like a fun lady to hang out with, and I will buy you a drink or one of your blow-up dolls if you bring one with you. But in all seriousness, Paula Starr,
It
thank.
might be hard getting them on a plane. I might
That's
have to-
true. You might have to buy them. a
No,
ticket.
this is Las Vegas. Anything goes here.
Anything goes in Vegas. But yeah, getting that blow-up doll on a plane might be a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
But Paula Starr,
You can just deflate it, right?
Paula Starr, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, and wish you the best with your
gentlemen,
restaurant.
I wish you a lot of success with all of your openings. I know it's a terrible time, but
No question.
Horrible time.
We
have
appreciate
to
it.
lighten the mood, as I said. So.
And you've done that. You certainly have done that. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
That's
thanks a lot,
Paula. Paula Starr, the owner of the Hearth restaurant in South Carolina. She's got blow-up dolls in there, and she's made national
Is
news.
this Myrtle Beach or
I
where,
love it.
Which part is this? Stein?
It's called Taylor's, South Carolina. I'm not sure
Taylor's.
what part of the state that's in, but she was just a delight. And
She was amazing. She was great.
I just think it's funny
Yeah.
because she made it clear to say, no, I got these on Amazon. She didn't. She wasn't going in any kind of seedy place. Whereas here we would call up our friend Tim Unglesby.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And ask for
That's right. Deja Vu, Adult
couple
Emporium.
dozen.
And they would have real
Can I
hair.
ask you both a question before we go to break? Let me ask you both the question because I think you both, this might be your expertise. If you buy a blow-up doll and it says on the box, feels like a real woman, I'm thinking to myself, if you're buying one of these blow-up dolls, you probably don't know what a real woman feels like anyway. Do you think that's a fair assumption to make? Stein, you're the expert when it comes to these blow-up dolls, so you tell me. Do you think that's fair?
What was the question?
Oh, wow, he's not even listening to me. You just pulled the JD.
I like that. That was a good move,
You
Stein.
just pulled the JD.
Very shrewd.
Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do.
Hey, Brian, I think you're trying to take a wonderful story by a wonderful,
And he's spinning it.
wholesome woman and turn it into something dirty.
Hey, play it,
Personally,
Sean.
I think you're a sexual deviant, Brian.
Very funny. All right.